past week, we had the pleasure of speaking with Ron Soulis.
Well, Ron, first, just some general background that has nothing to do with Big Band. So how long have you lived in Rossmoor?
We've actually lived here 2 times. The first time was in 2007 to 2011, and we got tired of condo living and with noise from our neighbors above us. And so we moved to a new area out in Brentwood called Trilogy at the Vineyards. We have our son and his family live in Oakland in Montclair area. So it took us an hour to get over to see him and then an hour back. So after about 4 years of doing that, we decided to move back to Rossmoor, which was dumb because we were paying that transfer fee twice, but that's the way it goes.
You know, I don't. Not all decisions can be about money. Access to family is a big deal. Ron, what was your career path?
Well,
I assume you're retired now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Was born in Oakland. And so I haven't traveled very far, but I've made some circuitous routes getting here where I am. I majored in chemical engineering at Berkeley. My first job was with Mobil Oil in Torrance, California, and I lived in Redondo Beach. Later in '57 was the first Sputnik flight. The excitement of, space and that type of stuff kind of overshadowed the boring stuff I was doing at Mobil Oil. After a couple of years, I moved to Aerojet General. It was a subsidiary, actually, of Aerojet. It was Aerojet General Nucleonics, and I got started in nuclear energy there. I worked there for about 11 years, and then I thought, well, if I could stay in the Bay Area, I would. And so I got a job with General Electric in San Jose, and they were in the business of building power plants and nuclear generated power plants. I was kind of involved with the fuel at Aerojet, so I became one of the fuel design engineers. And then I kind of evolved into project management roles, and I was in Japan for 4 years with our family. Some of the plants that you may remember, that Fukushima plant that got inundated with the seismic event.
Yeah.
The seismic event, everything was good with that one, but the tsunami that came afterward wiped out the auxiliary equipment. But that's another whole story.
Now, on to your trumpet career. When did you start playing the trumpet?
I started playing in the 5th grade, Parker Grammar School. I can remember growing up as a kid in Oakland, I used to stand outside. You couldn't get into the bars there, but there was guys that played Dixieland. They were from the old jazz bands that were here during the 40s. And stand outside and listen to them. And I played in high school. I played in the orchestra and the band. I played the French horn in the orchestra and the trumpet in the band. I'd pull it out every once in a while and play with my brother. He played the trombone. He's younger than I, but we'd play together. And my next youngest brother, he played the clarinet. And my mother played the piano, and my father could keep rhythm on the drums. So we had a little Dixieland band there. But there's 14 years difference between my age and my youngest brother. So it was when I was in college, he was in kindergarten. When I went to college, all the males students that hadn't been in the service had to take ROTC. I was in the Air Force ROTC band. That was fun because I never had to take a rifle apart or anything else. I just play music. That lasted for 2 years, and I didn't want to go into the military, so at that point I got out. But then in my junior year, I played in the concert band at Cal.
Were you able to keep up the trumpet during your work years, or did you pick it up again after?
I put it into cold storage.
How did you hear about the big band?
When we came here the first time, my wife encouraged me, actually. Maureen encouraged me to go check it out. Talk to Mo, and I just sat in the next week while I brought my trumpet that time, sat next to Herb Sontag. He was a good guy, and he kind of helped me along. And that was in 2008, I think, spring of 2008. And I still kept playing when I was living in Brentwood for 2 or 3 of the years we were up there.
That was a long commute to rehearsals.
What we would do is we would plan our doctor appointments and Costco appointments and stuff like that on Wednesday. We'd make a day of it there in Walnut Creek.
You sort of remember any sort of a learning curve just with your interaction with the pieces of music?
A lot of it was straightforward. Sections of it were difficult, and I'd have to do a little woodshedding on that to make sure that I could play it.
Mm-hmm.
But every once in a while, I still hit a bum note. But
people I sit next to in big band are sworn to secrecy. So share some of your special memories.
I enjoyed most of the the events that we do. The generations in jazz were always kind of special to me because you could hear a lot of good musicians from the high schools. Plus, we used to get, special guys coming up and playing. And it was good to see the alumni crowd playing too.
For me, as a relatively new member of the band, it means a lot to see the alumni come back. Do you have a favorite number that the band plays?
A favorite number? Well,
Or more
I
than one?
several. I like the Fred Astaire one. I like the Gershwin medley. I like that one where my part comes in after the 2 solos, and it starts off at F sharp, low F sharp, about as low as the trumpet can go, where the sound is good, and da 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 da. That's a good one. If that one hits, if everything's going right, boy, that's a good tune. Another song that I like out of our group is when Max plays "I Got It Good and It Ain't Bad."
Oh, thank you.
I like the way.
Got it bad and that ain't good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I just love that. That's one of my favorite lyric lines.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I got it bad and that ain't good.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I sure remember when it was originally a vocal piece for Countess, who had at one point 3 generations in the Rossmoor Big Band. Styles started out, he has me beat. He had his Rossmoor stage premiere when he was like 6. He's just this ridiculously talented pianist. But that song was originally Countess's song, who's in the Jazz Hall of Fame. And so it was big shoes to fit.
We play in a big band, the jazz big band. Are you a huge jazz fan? Are you eclectic? What's your favorite musical genre?
There are just some beautiful tunes coming out of opera. It tells a story. It's got pathos usually. It's got political statements. You can tell a lot about the history of the world when they were being written, Anything by Puccini, I don't know. That guy had just chords that just blow me away. I like all kinds of good music. My next brother, he plays the trombone, and when we moved back from Japan this was in like 1982, he had a Dixieland band that played at church functions and stuff like that in 1990 or 1987. And he asked me if I'd play with him. Of course, I hadn't really played, but I started playing with him. And then a couple of years later, I had a heart attack. And so I stopped playing then again. And then when I was living in Redondo Beach, Hermosa Beach was a big jazz focal point. And they had the Lighthouse Bar was a place where they had all kinds of the, Stan Getz would come in there and play. And, they'd have all the names would be there. And Howard Rumsey played the bass, and he kind of led the band, and he'd have all-stars, and they'd all come in and play. And it was during that period in the late 50s, early 60s, and there was a lot of good music being played around there.
Yeah.
In terms of the Los Angeles scene, I can attest to Ron and his family's generosity, as he also allowed me to partake in the Playboy Jazz Festival also, which I enjoyed with Ron. Well, and they may not be strictly jazz, as we discovered. It was sure a hell of an event.
The Playboy Jazz Festival at the Hollywood Bowl, when my son-in-law actually was working for Playboy at the time. He was the financial officer, and he used to get tickets to the jazz festival, and he would invite Maureen and I down, and we would go there, spend a Saturday. And they used to have really solid big bands or combos playing. But the last couple of years, Max was there this last year, good, but it was more loud than good. I remember one year, this was probably 2 or 3 years ago or so, Hugh Hefner was not feeling well, I guess. So his box was the first row in from the stage, right in the center. And he gave that to our son-in-law, who was the chief financial officer. And so we all sat there, and George Lopez is the quintessential MC for there. He always takes over that job. And he came down, handed the mic to my daughter, and she started singing the words to the song that was being played. And then she handed it to me, and I didn't have the presence of mind, because I didn't know the words. I didn't even have the presence of mind to scat it.
We're almost wrapping up here. Any other avocations when you're not playing your trumpet?
I guess you might call me a gym rat. We live at the entry 20, which is the top of Ptarmigan, entry 20. So you can walk around there and get a lot of exercise, because everything is uphill or downhill. And I enjoy golf, although I'm not playing it very much anymore.
To tie things together, perhaps, when I started the band, the first person I sat next to was Ron.
Yeah, that's one thing. Playing fourth trumpet, most of the kids that come in start off at either fourth or third. So you see them all. Of course, we see in the Rossmoor Band, we see all the great high school kids that are in bands coming through. So what we see is kind of a truncated population of the high school talent. But boy, are they good.
Yeah, it's been my privilege.
Yeah, they just amaze me.
Kids, better. I mean, they're just in dark times. They provide a moment of hope and joy. And
yeah.
Again, thank you. And this has just been a pleasure.
Ron serves as a rite of passage for all us trumpeters. He sets the tone for the music, experience, and memories to come. He epitomizes the culture that makes the big band unique. For those who have admired the accomplishments of the trumpet section, thank Ron. For those of you who are fed up with the party that the back row brass are having, Ron is to blame. He exudes his kindness and generosity far beyond the big band. I am totally aware of my good fortune, being one of the beneficiaries of Ron's guidance. For this, thank you, Ron.